really happy. My favorite show is now back. I feel like we needed this. You know, we've been waiting for quite some time for it to come back, and it came back with a bang. So America's Worst Family is here, and season 3 of Secession just premiered with episode 1, Secession. And I appreciated this episode on multiple different levels. First, it started off exactly where it left off. And wow, like this entire episode was just pick a side and pick a side right now. And I also appreciated the opening scene of Logan in the helicopter because it speaks to flying too close to the sun. So the issue isn't whether or not, like who's gonna go down. They're both gonna go down. It's just a matter of who's going to go down harder, in my opinion. And the show never lets you forget that it's a dark comedic satire and that you're not actually supposed to be rooting for any of these people. But for now, I guess we're gonna be rooting for Ken. And Ken is just a disaster, right? So the episode starts off, he's in shock. And again, I appreciated that we left off exactly where we were. And he's kind of just like, I can't believe I did that, you know? And he has to get into a leadership position right away, right? And the sad thing about Ken is that his entire playbook is straight from his father, right? Like everything he's doing, he learned from his dad. So this might be a giant sort of detriment moving forward. And the first thing that struck out at me is Cousin Greg. So Cousin Greg, you know, clearly he jumped ship. The way he was acting, like, I didn't see this coming, but you know, I want to hear more. And the thing with Cousin Greg is he's in a weird position because he's basically disowned. And we find out in his episode that his mother was also cut off, it seems. Correct me if I'm wrong, so he's been supporting her. And I think watching these people cannibalize each other, he kind of learned that, you know, he has no choice, right? He kind of picked up these vicious traits. And so he's doing what he can to survive at this point and make a name for himself. And so he's doing the best he can. And so, like, as far as Ken is concerned, his strategy is to call this a revolution. And he is a revolutionary, right? At one point, he kicks this woman out of the car. He calls the vehicle a righteous vehicle, basically being like, lady, this is your moment of truth. You know, are you going to be with me, an angel, or are you going to go with the devil? And this whole sort of dichotomy of good versus evil, we've seen this from Ken before, and it doesn't really work out. Okay, so Ken's strategy is I'm a good person, and I'm going to get good people on my side. And the central sort of conflict here. So in this episode, Ken won the battle, but not yet the war, right? So they're trying to get this woman, Lisa, on their side. And I like the addition of Sanaa Lathan because she fit, right? She's kind of looking at these people like, you guys are out of your minds. And in the end, he's able to get this lawyer that he wants to represent him because this lawyer is seen as a good person. She defended human trafficking victims. So it kind of fits his image, right? And as far as Lisa's concerned, I suspect her motivations are personal. We know that she was friends with Siobhan. I don't know what that means. But for whatever reason, Lisa decided to side with Ken. And Ken is ecstatic about this, right? Like, this is a big win for him. Second, his social media team, right? He's talking about TEDx's. He's talking about drafting a new corporate manifesto. Like, the things coming out of his mouth are just like, they're just wild, right? He really sees himself as like this fallen angel. And every time you kind of side with Ken, he does something that, like, unforgivable, right? Like, just as you're kind of rooting for him, he does something stupid. And everything about Ken is like the audacity, this entire episode. Like, he had the balls to, like, throughout this episode, he kept asking for things and he was already doing them. So he'd be like, can I do this? But he was already doing them. And one of the things was showing up to his ex-wife's house. And her face kind of confirmed how insane this man was being. So he has the audacity to show up to her house, use her space as headquarters. And Ken is lost, right? He's a puppet. He doesn't know how to be the puppeteer, right? Like, he's so used to being this guy who is just kind of told what to do, right? And we saw that in the last season. He was just kind of he was just a zombie walking around. And so as soon as he walks through the door, he's looking at his ex-wife and he's like, I can do this, right? Like, you believe in me. And she's like, I don't know, but you need to get out of my house. Like, this is insane. And the thing with Ken's family is that the whole world revolves around them. And so they are the most interesting. Like, the world cannot resume until everything with them is sorted out. And his ex-wife is looking at him like, I got a job, I got kids, you need to sort yourself out and get out of my house. And the thing with Ken is that the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, right? At one point, he has the audacity to call over Naomi. And this was so mind-blowing because not only was he like, I'm gonna invite this girl over, that's good for me, but I'm also gonna accuse you of seeing a man. So he basically, like in the same breath, questions his ex-wife about razors he found in the bathroom. And she's just looking at him like, are you out of your mind? Like, first of all, we're not together, that's none of your business. And he's just in La La Land. And I think one of the best scenes was when Naomi, cousin Greg, they just kind of cracked open a bottle of wine in this woman's house. Like, they didn't ask her. They're just kind of making themselves at home. And she's pissed. She's like, yo, you just broke something beautiful, correct? And so this was kind of a symbol of, you know, nothing lasts. And that's the entire story with Ken, right? Like, nothing ever lasts with him. Like, he gets to a point and then he just messes it all up, right? Like, he's kind of his own worst enemy. And so he's kind of biting off more than he can chew, it seems. Like, having his ex-wife, having his girl. Like, it was just a lot, you know? And the way he interpreted everything was like, what did I do correct to get all these beautiful women fighting over me? And again, Ken is so earnest in how he sees himself. Like, he really is seeing this as like a revolutionary moment. And he makes you forget the fact that he killed somebody and his dad like covered up for him. Like, there's so many things that we're forgetting about Ken that doesn't excuse his behavior. So again, I appreciated these scenes because it, like, anytime he does something positive, the show reminds you like he's kind of also terrible, you know? So in this episode, he won the battle, but not the war. So he's able to get Lisa on his side, and temporarily it seems like he's doing very well for himself. So now we'll go over to Team Logan, and Logan is just like, the vultures are circling and he knows that he's done, right? Like, there is that kind of dread in him that we haven't seen before, and it seems like the walls are closing in. And so the issue here is to jump ship or not to jump ship, right? Like, these decisions have to be made in a timely manner. And I think what kills Logan is that he's too smart for his own good. And what he did to Shiv might be the beginning of the end, right? He kind of nails his own coffin because he has this habit of pinning people against each other to his own detriment, right? And so he kind of gives Siobhan the job of being temporary CEO, and then he takes it away from her because she's unable to hire Lisa, her friend. We don't know what happened there. But this just, it's a bridge too far, right? And you could see that Siobhan was very bothered. And we're not sure where she went after her meeting, but I don't think it's good for Logan, right? So again, he just has this habit of, he just doesn't respect boundaries. He thinks everybody's here for him. And I think this episode, he kind of went a little bit too far. And just on a side note, I will say this about Siobhan. She is the best of the worst, but again, everybody in this family they have moments where, just as you're rooting for them, they kind of remind you that you're not supposed to be rooting for them. So initially, Siobhan was the obvious choice, and Siobhan has been pretty like bloodthirsty for it. And a few things struck out at me. First, her interaction with Tom. And as the series goes on, like, Tom is becoming my favorite a bit. Like, I'm starting to kind of warm up to him. I really didn't like him before, but he's very loyal to her, right? Like, he tries to reassure her, like, you'll see your father again. Like, you know, he kind of gives her the heads up, like, you could be the next CEO. Like, I got your back, girl. And she just shuts him down constantly, you know, like the way she talks to him, I'm just like, let the man be your husband. Like, let him just settle in. And this whole situation with Lisa was just, there were just a few things to note. And in a way, I could kind of understand why Logan took the job away from her, because the way she walked into Lisa's office was so disrespectful. You know, she was trying to side with her on like a feminine level, on a female, like, girl power, you know, and she was just throwing all these things at her. She was kind of really insulting this woman's intelligence. Like, I didn't really buy it, and neither did Lisa. And you can kind of see Siobhan switch when she hears the word no, right? Like, she's like, thanks, pal, and she walks out. So I really didn't like that about her. You know, again, Siobhan has moments where you want her to win, but then she has these other moments where she kind of reminds you that, again, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, right? And again, Siobhan's an interesting character because she is the best of the worst, but with Tom, this relationship with Lisa, like, I am interested to see why it is they fell out or what happened between the two of them. But whatever it was, it didn't end well. And you get the sense that Lisa just had no interest in entertaining this woman beyond like anything. Like she shut her down so quickly. And so you kind of wonder why, right? And so Logan, this entire episode, is looking for a temporary CEO. And he makes it clear that he still wants to be in charge, right? He wants a puppet because he lost his previous puppet, Kendall, right? So Ken is gone, he needs a new Ken. And one of the people that I was like slightly impressed with this episode was Roman. Like he wasn't totally terrible because he did call his father and he was telling him, you know what, maybe you should give the job to Gerri. And I think he's in love with her. And his father sensed that because ultimately you cannot give somebody a job he's going to be more loyal to her than to him. And that's kind of what he picked up on the phone, I think. But I was really impressed with Roman because he seemed to have some loyalty towards her. He seems to, like, it's a weird relationship, but I think they kind of like match each other. I don't know, it seemed like there was some type of growth there. And I think with Roman, like, he's a terrible person that occasionally does okay things. So he has moments of humanity in him, but for the most part, he's a disaster, right? And the thing with Logan is he has no friends. He tries to call the president and he just doesn't want to be on the phone with him. They get the runaround. And like his entire team is getting calls from Ken, right? So Ken has the momentum and they're all trying to decide, like, should we just leave? Like this man is dying, like we need to leave right now. It seems like his numbers might be dwindling a bit. And so it's to the point where he has to fly off to Sarajevo. And this was really a moment because it's clear that like the end is near, right? So he flies off to Sarajevo and they're trying to make these decisions quite quickly. And when he finds out that Lisa is unable to like represent him because Siobhan was unable to convince her, he just loses it, right? Like he's like, we're going into beast mode, this is war, and he just leaves. And that scene of him at the end kind of looking around was really telling because he's in a foreign country. He literally had to flee for his life because he could very well go to jail, and he just looked lost, right? He looked lost. He literally looked like a lost, like Ken's narrative was working, right? Like banish him, exile him. He doesn't deserve to be here. And so I think Logan knows that like the end is near, but overall I thought it was an excellent episode. Did anyone know where Marcia went? I didn't see her at all. I don't know what's going on with her. But yeah, I think both of them are a disaster. They're kind of two opposite ends of the spectrum. They both have their own issues. And ultimately, they are their own worst enemy. So it's going to be interesting to see how they both go down, to be honest with you. Anyways, thank you, and I will catch you all later.